Hey, all you people, welcome to Two Across, the podcast that's like the Sunday puzzle for your ears, but with more swearing, where we dissect and analyze the New York Times daily crossword. I'm Michael.
And I'm Alex. On the pod today, we're talking about casual sex, Shamila Mendez, and the fall of the Ottoman Sultanate. So grab your crosswords and a pencil,
Or if you're feeling frisky, a pen.
because this is Two Across, and we're here to nuzzle your puzzle.
Yeah, we are.
And let's get into it.
Let's dive right into it.
Right in. Monday, starting strong. Our namesake right here, 25 across, casual sex. Which we have seen in the puzzle a couple of times. I was surprised. This is the third time that we've seen casual sex. And it's interesting because typically when they clue sex, which sex shows up, 5 or 6 times a year, it's always like some kind of, phrase, or they've got like Dr. Ruth's field, like they're very scientific with it, They're not usually just being like, well, think about sex for a couple of seconds while you write this in. But this one, there's no getting around it. You're just thinking about sex.
A very casual sex, and I think a really masterful job of David Distenfeld of being able to get casual sex in here by coming up with a theme that requires sex to be in the puzzle and to be part of a longer theme clue. With this theme where you get to have you get sax, sex, six, socks, and sucks all in the puzzle. And a really, really, really smart job to be able to get it in. And then, did they get racy with the clue? Not really. That's as scientific a definition of casual sex as you can have. But it is good that they crossed it with Alex Trebek. I feel like one of the pioneers of casual sex.
A sex icon.
Yeah.
Did he die?
He did.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. But great to see Alex in a puzzle. I'm always for that. Had you heard of honey sex before?
No.
Okay.
No, I had not. And, I did this thing all downs. And so, in fact, when I had enough of honey sack, I just put in a K there. I had mocha, so I knew that it was going to be a C. And so I just threw a K in. This has got to be sack.
That's tough.
Because I didn't think about how it was going to be plural because I didn't see the clue. And so eventually I went back through and I said, okay, well, this ends, sex ends with an X, six ends with an X. But then you had the CKS. So and eventually I was like, these are all ending with this X sound. And if I've got a C that I feel really good about with mocha, then there's really only one other letter that I can really put after that. So got a little bit lucky there.
Yeah, I wonder how much, let's just say his name was David?
David Distenfeld.
Yeah, I wonder how much David tried for some kind of like tenor sax. That would have been an 8-letter. If he thought about like blank sucks being a 3-letter word, like wouldn't be as good as that sucks, but it'd be better than honey sags. I guess I prefer this way. Ending with that sucks is fantastic, especially when you're like me and you don't know what the theme is. I had no idea what was going on with the theme. I thought the revealer was going to be like, the first half of every word, it has to do with this other thing, blah, blah, blah. Then the revealer, where the revealer should be is just, that sucks. I was like, oh, wow, kind of does. So yeah, I like puzzles like this where there doesn't have to be a revealer. You can kind of figure it out.
Yeah, and
as you go.
And I like this. David has done 5 puzzles before this Monday. This is his 6th puzzle with the New York Times, all in the last 2+ years. And so what I found was interesting when I went and checked him out was that every other puzzle he's done until this puzzle was either a Friday or a Saturday. So really cut his teeth constructing the most difficult puzzles we see on a weekly basis,
And
and
themeless puzzles.
themeless puzzles. And I like to think that he submitted a puzzle or two to the New York Times, and Will said, "You can't keep putting casual sex in these Friday and Saturday puzzles." And he said, "You're on." And this is absolutely not how this happened. But until David, you come on the podcast and refute it, this is what we're sticking with.
Yeah, we should blackmail more constructors to come on to clear their names. It's a great plan. This puzzle also had a lot of proper nounage, and most of it was pretty well known stuff. It's at least stuff that I knew, so couldn't be too upset about it. I don't know. I know some people are upset about that, but something to look at. It kind of continues through the week. A couple of puzzles have an issue or two there. We also have Ass Watch, 8 down. St. Francis's Home, S-E-C.
That's right. I'm pretty sure that's how it's pronounced.
S-E-C?
S-E-C.
S-E-C. So yeah, that's like as close as we get, I think, this week. Unfortunate, but it's crossing with casual sex, so we can't be too upset. Great work, David. Anything else to say here?
No, I want to shout out my pops, 39 down, Daddy O. I call my dad Pops, so it's always fun for me to put that in the puzzle there. So,
yeah, you do call him that.
Let's talk about Tuesday. This was a puzzle that featured 4 themers, all movies. 2 of them 11 letters long, the other 2 12 letters long, and you get Mystic Pizza, Broadcast News, Rosemary's Baby, and the theme is Deliverance, which is the last movie, which, I've been thinking about this since Tuesday, and I'm less and less sure. Is there actually a plot? Is there actually a plot point of delivering a pizza in Mystic Pizza?
They work at a pizza place,
so they have to deliver pizza.
I don't remember if they actually deliver a pizza, but they're like making pizzas for delivery. Like, it's,
I guess that's fair.
Totally makes sense.
And if Broadcast News, assuming they delivered the news, I guess that's gonna be in there. Rosemary's Baby, I assume she has the baby at some point during the movie. See the delivery of the baby, but
it's more like implied delivery.
Yeah, and honestly, like, if you clue it a little bit differently to focus on the ends of each of these, you deliver a pizza, you deliver the news, you deliver the baby. I actually think that's a little bit more accessible than talking about the plot point, because now I'm like, well, what movie? I like, do I know the movie rather than just being like, oh, it's in the title, something. Does that make sense?
Accessible. It's more accessible, but I think it's less fun. I think we've had so many puzzles that are the second word of each of these things has this thing.
It's a common theme.
Yeah. And so I think cluing a plot point makes it a lot more interesting for me. So maybe you're right, maybe more accessible. This is kind of what I was talking about. Like, this, all the 4 of these are proper nouns. I mean, technically, the way that they're clued. So, and when are these movies set? 1972, 88, 87, and 68. So, yeah, there's a good chance that at least half of the puzzle-solving public has never seen / perhaps heard of any of these movies.
Sure.
So,
it's definitely a puzzle for fans of the oldies, the classics. But I really think saved by some of these long non-themer clues that are sprinkled throughout, which for me were more help in terms of getting into the puzzle than the themers themselves.
Yeah, and honestly, for me, the theme, I mean, obviously, I would have liked to see some more recent films. There must be a more recent film that involves a baby being delivered or, you know, news.
I don't think those things usually come up in new cinema. We
Babies.
we steered away from babies.
Yeah, you're right.
What's that Seth Rogen
Knocked up.
and there you go. Knocked Up could have been in there. I guess that's not quite long enough.
Not quite long enough. But yeah, that's one thing is like, I would have preferred for there to be more recent films so that younger solvers can have a film they recognize. But also, I was struck by the feeling that you could kind of do this with any 4 movies. Like you could just find any movie that was a movie title, but also a thing that can happen, like Deliverance, a thing that has multiple definitions, and then just like pick 3 other movies that have to do with that thing. Like, I think that is what allows for these long, fun downs. Is that who made this puzzle? Andrea Carla Michaels and Christina Iverson. Andrea and Christina, I'm sure, like swapped some out. They're like, well, if we do Rosemary's Baby, then we can do Snow Angels, like not that tough of a clue to fit in because you have so many options, I'm sure. Any movie where a baby is delivered or news is delivered. So, and I think that's a good thing that it allows for a better fill overall. But yeah, the theme, I don't know, it kind of felt shallow to me in that way. Like, you could just kind of swap this out. Those themes where it's like, wow, these must be the only 4 things in the world that fit this theme. And it's crazy that this solver, that this constructor found those things. This is not that puzzle. But as you say, it allows for Out of Order and Scorpion and Evil Twin and Snow Angels. And that's fun.
It was fun. It was fun. For a second there, I thought we were going to get a second edition of Okay, You Do It Then. But
like with a completely different theme.
Well, I just didn't know if you had a movie in mind that's like a one-word movie that then has multiple definitions of the word that then you could use to like try to like.
It wouldn't even have to be a one-word movie. It would just have to be a movie title that referred to a thing in the real world.
Homeward Bound.
I guess you would need something that had 4 different definitions. Because you deliver a pizza, you deliver the news, you deliver a baby, and deliverance is not on any of those things. It's like, deliver us unto evil or something, right? So I guess,
but that's just a verb that has 4 different uses. There's lots of things you deliver. You could deliver donuts.
So the fact that we both put 0 effort into finding another set of these maybe means that it's actually way harder than we're giving it credit for. So, like everything we say on this podcast, tons of salt. We're salty, but also you should take what we say with grains of salt because we're so salty.
And honestly, I had a good time, just to finish on a high note. I had a good time filling out this puzzle even without having seen any of these movies. So, and that's something that I can talk about accessibility, but it was pretty accessible to me. So no real complaints.
Yeah, no complaints.
Let's talk about Wednesday. A Wednesday that felt, dare I say, Thursday-ish.
Wednesday, yeah, they like to sprinkle in a little bit of fun on a Wednesday. They don't go whole hog like on Thursdays. And so this one we get kind of an anti-rebus. It's like a rebus, but the rebus takes up 2 squares. So
I'm pretty sure that's called a Suber.
A Suber. So this is a Suber puzzle, and I got 3 down, and maybe bottle for a caretaker. I had some of the crosses. I was like, oh, that's breast milk. And then 21, I had some of the crosses, and I was like, oh, that's hot mics. Okay, and they had those gray squares, right? Those 6 gray squares. So I was like, TMI, great. And so then I have to check if the other squares are the same thing, and they are. It's all TMIs. And then the theme reveal is oversharing, revealing an inappropriate amount of personal detail as depicted 3 times in this puzzle. So what's depicted is the phrase TMI being shared by 2 clues. So those clues are sharing TMI. And that's what oversharing is. You're sharing too much information. It was a long jog for me to get from where I was to there. I had to talk to you about this. I was like, they're just sharing. They're not oversharing. They're just sharing letters. The specific letters they are sharing are the thing that you share when you overshare. So yeah, the actual theme of it didn't help me in my solving. And I wonder how many people that was the case for. Not that that's a necessary thing for puzzles, right? You don't need to know the theme in order to help you solve it, but this seems like one of those puzzles where knowing the theme doesn't actually help you solve it. What do you think?
Well, it helped me, and it did not take me quite as long to get to where Brandon Copy was trying to take us. As a textbook oversharer myself, I think maybe I was just ready for this kind of a theme. And you're right, the gray boxes help you a lot. They help you get there, and the app itself does a nice little animation once you solve the puzzle that shifts the 2 TMIs and makes them 1 TMI that is sharing the 2 boxes, just basically like mega squares there. And for me, the hardest part was figuring out that it was meant to be sharing and that you weren't using the 2 letters back to back when they crossed. And I actually was impressed that we had 2 TMIs go down and 1 TMI go across to kind of help you realize that it wasn't a cross or down kind of thing. It was just the T's in the direction that they read TMI, but in the direction that they read TT or MM or II, they are just M. And one of my favorite instances of that was 43 Across, Jane Austen novel that inspired Clueless, not just because I love Clueless, but also because I got to write M. And it created little delights like that. There's some crossword ease fill to get there. But for me, I mean, you get, what is it? 3 10-letter clues, an 11-letter clue, and 2 7-letter clues that all have TMI in them. And Brandon was able to stack them, which creates so many difficult problems for a constructor to be able to have all of this fill that's just set and stacked right next to each other, that you have to line up everything else. And we get solely because of that. We get talc, I think, because of that. We get, Pac-10 is one that, it's not that conference is not the Pac-10 anymore. There are some things that are tough, but also like Game On was fun. TV shows was fun. I liked I'm Sore. I liked Ink Spot. There's moments of that difficulty resulting in some real brilliance from Brandon. I was really, really impressed with this puzzle.
It's very impressive. There's no doubt there. Brandon actually has a crossword blog called C17 Across, which we love. We like things with across in the name, famously on this podcast.
We're big across fans.
And he actually posted after this a tutorial of how he filled this grid. He's got this software and he kind of broke it down. How to look for, what did he say? How to use use word list encoding to help fill grids like this. So he used technology to his advantage. But I agree with Jeff Chen's notes on this that that doesn't fill your puzzle for you. That doesn't get a good puzzle just because you can find these things that pair. And being able to build fill around it is really tough. I think that the left TMI is the best one based on the crosses. The other two, you've got some questionable ones. I think the worst offender is Evil 25 across, crossing with Avila, walled city of Spain. I grew up loving Evil Knievel, and I was in my 8-year-old motorbike X Games phase. I was like, his name was Evil? That's the raddest shit. Are you kidding me? Then I realized, oh, it's not spelled evil. It's spelled Eva. But yeah, that cross is not great. But as you said, it's kind of an impossible task to build this, stick two huge clues together and get a fillable puzzle, which it totally did. So
Yeah. The great irony for me, just before we move on, the great irony for me personally is that the hardest and to me the most frustrating clue in the puzzle is not connected to any of the themers. It's 42 across movie theater eponym, and it's low, which is spelled Loew, and it threw me. It was hard. I don't know who that is.
Low and Lowe's is one of those rough names that we get in the puzzle a lot because Lowe's used to be all over Manhattan. And there's still a big one. Actually, it might not be called Lowe's anymore, but until quite recently, the V Theater at Lincoln Center was the Lowe's, whatever number it is.
Yeah.
So it was like a marquee name in Manhattan. And obviously this puzzle skews a little bit New York, which why shouldn't it?
That's
their paper.
That's their prerogative.
Yeah.
That's their prerogative.
So yeah, I don't know when the last time we saw just low was. We do see lows more often with the S on the end. Let's check. Low by itself less than once a year since 2015, which maybe that's when that one at Lincoln Center is no longer called that. So we're going to see that less and less. But yeah, it's very impressive Wednesday. Nothing else to say.
All right, let's trade places.
Okay. Thursday, the theme is trading places, which is a classic 1983 comedy. And this was one where, for me, the theme got more impressive the more that I looked at it. Like at first, you don't know what's going on. You just know that nothing's fitting. You got these starred clues, acronym of talks. I read that as anagram. And so I was like, well, that's not going to fit because it's got to be 5 letters. There's some kind of Shifty Thursday bullshit going on. Lucky for me, that's exactly what I should have thought, rather than writing it in like some people probably tried to do. And then, yeah, bank employee and kind of wreath. It's just like nothing's fitting. And you eventually get to this trading places idea and you're like, okay, there's 4 pairs of clues. So then I went looking for pairs like symmetrically, right? Like I thought that Bill would be paired with bottom right Glenn, but it wasn't starred. So I was like, okay, there's 8 of these stars. They're paired somehow, but it's not in the cluing. So then I realized, okay, we're taking things and just swapping their places. And I was like, that's it? We're just going to swap their clues around? Like, you could do that with any puzzle. Just kind of, this is a harder puzzle now that I've swapped these clues.
I was in the exact same place through that far in the puzzle. I went through the exact same progression. I just want you to know you're not crazy. I was like, this is not a theme. You can't just put one clue in the middle that says move everything, let's get crazy, and then just break all the rules.
And then I think I want to say it was Laurel and Hardy. Hardy was where's Laurel? It's hard to see to know where the things are.
Hardy is 9 across,
Yeah,
and Laurel is 49 down.
49 down. Laurel's clue was able to endure difficult conditions. I think I got a lot of these crosses, and I figured out it was Laurel, and I was like, oh, that's a type of wreath. So this is a pairing. Laurel goes there, and then I got some of those crosses, and I was like able to withstand Hardy, and that's when it's clicked, Laurel and Hardy. So not only are we swapping two clues, but those clues are going to be connected in some way. And you go through and realize, oh, they're duos. We've got Penn, 15 across, and then Teller, 45 across, Bill and Ted, 1 down and 59 down, and then Chip and Dale, 61 across, and where's Dale? Dale, 31 across. So we have these duos. They're not necessarily all comedy duos, but they all do comedy in some way. Two of the duos are made up, but
Well,
places.
Chip and Dale are absolute icons.
Yeah, they are fake though.
All right, then I mean, that's not a very nice thing to say.
So is Bill and Ted. They're just like characters. I love them, obviously. That was my second AOL screen name back in the day.
That's right, forever, baby.
Bill and Ted. So they're duos. We've got famous duos being traded. And so the theme just got cooler and cooler as I went. But then I was left feeling, I don't know, like sometimes the themer tells you everything, and sometimes you figure everything out on your own. And it seems like here they kind of wanted us to do both, where the themer told us that these pairs were trading places, but we figure out
you have to figure out
part
right
on our own.
And you have to figure out which one is trading with which one.
Yeah.
Not just why, but where.
And that made it harder, but it kind of, I don't know, like I wish I had known about the duos when I was trading, because that makes Trading Places a better movie pick, because it's who is it? Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd, and they're like a great duo in that movie. So I don't know. I guess the fact that I know that is the case means that this puzzle worked, and I started thinking about it. But I don't know. Am I way off?
I don't think you're way off. I liked that I got to have that reveal and realization of I think I can't remember how many clues I had. I definitely had I had Penn and Teller. That was what it was. When I got Penn and Teller, and then when I got Chip and Dale, I was all of a sudden, I was like, oh, it's not just that these are trading places. It's that they're trading places with their famous other half. And so then I had Dale and was able to much more easily. I was like, okay, where can I put Chip? And so I went back over to 1 across, and I was like, acronym of talks. That's not Chip. And then I, went over and eventually found Hill's partner. I was like, that's Dale, which means this is supposed to be Chip. You're cluing Dale and asking me to write Chip. I like that. And it made finding Bill and Ted very easy for me. So it wasn't your typical like, oh, I know the theme now, and so the whole puzzle just fills itself in. But I did have a fun and frantic and frenzied moment of, once I got the aha, it was really fun to put in those clues. Now, I wish that those clues had helped me with more of the puzzle, because this thing was really, really difficult for, I think, other reasons than just the theme. And I think the theme was enough on its own. It's a bit of a weird theme, because the longest themer that we get is the revealer, and that's 13 letters. And then after that, the longest themer we get is 6. So you get like really, really short themers. And, I don't know enough about puzzle construction to really know this, but man, it made some of this fill difficult in order to fit it. And I think that, if at any point you find yourself constructing a puzzle and you put Nineveh in the puzzle and you think, what would help is if I cross this with some really difficult clues. I think you have to take a step back at that point. I think that at that point you're making it harder just to make it harder, and there has to be some sort of balance. This could have been a Wednesday. If it was like the only way to make this is to make all these other crosses really easy, and then it's no longer Thursday difficulty, this could have been a Wednesday. And I don't know if that is a Will Shortz thing. I don't know if that's a Sam Buttrey thing, but yeah, that was kind of my the one little disappointing part of the puzzle for me.
Which is a big part of the puzzle. The rest of the solving experience is the one little thing that was really tough. I totally agree.
Well, and sorry, I'm just gonna go do one other, like, Teller. You're left with, you have in this bottom left hand corner, and again, this is not going to be a okay, you do it then moment, because I'm visiting family this weekend. You can see I'm in like a different room. I'm getting the sun coming all over my face. I'm trying to figure it. So I didn't have time to do that. But this Teller corner gives you LER, and then you've got 15 squares, 59 across, 63 across, 66 across, and you can pretty much put anything you want in those 12 squares that are left other than the LER from Teller. And you come up with tra-la and iders and doers. And I just feel like like I said, I haven't put any work into it, so maybe I'm really wrong. And if so, I'm sorry, Sam. But that to me is just like, why are we choosing these clues?
Yeah, eider is tough, although I love that clue. I wish I had heard of a duck called an eider.
I know. And I looked it up, and it's all over the crossword too. I mean, did you know this? Did you look this up?
That
eider's all over the New York Times crossword, and it's always clued this same way. So the next time we see it, I'll be like, well, the next time I see it, I'll be like, what was the name of that thing? I remember. And I still won't know it.
I mean, it's all over the crossword, but we haven't seen it in like 4 years.
Right.
And we're like averaging maybe once or twice a year before that. So not incredibly common, but it makes sense because there's so many vowels and E's and R's.
And apparently eider is like the kind of duck that you want for
down,
like premium down.
Good to know.
But we're not really down fans on this podcast.
It's true.
We're famously
we're up.
I was going to say we're famously across fans instead of down fans.
Oh, that's fun.
That's where I was. Yeah, that would have been funnier.
We're kind of down on down, honestly. And yeah, like, so it crosses with Rio, which we see all the time. Plenty of ways to clue that. It's clued Bravo in the movies, like the Rio Bravo. But yeah, just like a really hard way to clue that. I agree with you, to make the difficulty more of a Thursday. And I think it seems like they're trying to move away from doing a rebus every week, but they're like scared of the difficulty being too easy if there's no rebus. If there's no crazy mind-bending crossword rules changing theme.
Yeah.
Then people won't think it's a Thursday. They'll think it's too easy. And so you get things like jag for spree, which just, who was delighted by that? Who? Oh yeah, jag does mean spree. Does it? And like that was right next to vital statistic, which makes more sense. But it's like, is that part of your vitals?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like vital statistic, when I think vital, I'm like heart rate.
Yeah, these things are vital. The height's not going to change.
I don't know. Breathing rate, not like how tall are you?
Yeah, and then like 37 down, apostate for renegade. And
I'm imagining somebody, an ambulance driving up to the hospital, and my partner is an emergency room doctor, and I'm imagining somebody wheeling a body in a gurney off of the ambulance, and here comes
a
my
living body.
partner, a living body, somebody who's like all like hooked up and all of this stuff, and here comes my partner, and she's just like, okay, how tall is he? And the person is like, he's 5'10", and she's like, oh,
Clear an OR. Yeah, we've been watching a lot of Grey's Anatomy, and they're always like, multiple gunshot wounds to the chest, blood pressure is 90 over 30, and they're 6'1". My God, what are we gonna do?
what will we do?
So we've seen.
Sorry, ma'am, there was nothing we could do.
We've seen this the last couple of times. They didn't have a crazy weird theme on Thursdays where they make the things a lot harder, and there's like an expectation for difficulty. I just feel like we can have more freedom on a Thursday. We don't have to tie ourselves to this. It's not like Rebus or Death Clues. You know, it's not the two sides of the seesaw. There's something in the middle. I believe we can find.
I agree with you. I want one last ass watch. It's again ass adjacent. 47 down. The clue was booty, and
Booty.
unfortunately, the answer ended up being spoils. But
Yeah,
you can't win them all.
can't win them all.
Do you want to talk about Nineveh and Listeria before we move on to Friday?
Yeah, I think that's my worst cross of the week. And it's notable because it might be the longest worst cross of the week ever. Nineveh, I have a strong personal relationship with because I eventually became an amateur actor in my life. But one of my first ever roles was in a play about Jonah and the whale. And God tells Jonah to go to Nineveh and tell him that they're dicks. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. They'll hate me. I have social anxiety. This is what happens in the Bible story, if I recall. And so I didn't know that it was once the world's most populous city or that it's in present day Iraq. When I had enough downs, I was like, Nineveh? And I was still like, why would you put that in the puzzle? Like, I don't know. And then it's crossed with listeria, which I'm sure is a real thing. But this is the first time I've ever seen listeria in a puzzle. And puzzles have, new clues all the time, things we've never seen before. But do you really want to be known for being the first person to bring listeria into the New York Times canon? So that crossing with Nineveh, and then it's just right there next to Lamina. Lamina and listeria and Nineveh, and they all kind of sound the same, just like barf.
Yeah, and yeah, just tough. Just tough. I have no notes on that. I agree.
Contrast this with Friday and then also Saturday, which I think were both fun puzzles. I really like just like looking at this grid for Friday. It's like a little, like that thing that you blow on, the windmill.
Little pinwheel.
Little pinwheel, yeah. And we've got so many great long clues, right? Dodged a bullet across the middle, and then that's a tall order is arranged tall, and it's the tallest clue. So that's fun. We got so many great things like Easy Peasy and Sweet Talk, and I even like Kid Gloves. Top of Dan is great. So there's just like so much great in this puzzle. My only snag with it was that there's a lot of proper nounage, specifically proper townage. They're like city names all over this thing. Like we got Miami, 3 down. We got Plano, 17 across. We've got Turin, 28 across, and then Babel. 33 across, which is, I learned, another name for Babylon. Did you know that?
I did know that.
I didn't know.
My mom's a minister.
That's fair. And you didn't know how to say Nineveh?
I had no idea. I'd never heard of Nineveh.
You knew about Babel, but not Nineveh? Talk to your mom about that.
I'm going to talk to my mom about it.
I when I went to Miami, the one time I've ever been to Miami, I learned this fact about Art Deco.
Did you really?
That stuck in my brain to the point where when I read this, I was like, "Oh, is it Miami?" So I knew this one immediately, and it helped me solve the puzzle. And I still was kind of sad about it. And it seemed like a lot of the difficulty of this puzzle was not in cool, interesting cluage. It was in just a lot of trivia, and every puzzle had a certain amount, but this one for me was a little bit too much.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have as much trouble with I struggled with the trivia. And you also missed, did you say Havana was also one of the cities? It's not really, it's clued as a city. It's clued because of Camilo Cabello, but, that top up the northeast corner up here with Masa and Asanas and Hajj and Jalapa and Plano and, thank goodness I had Molten Lava and Easy Peasy because those were crucial in being able to get this thing. But to me, that's kind of what Friday is. It's there's going to be some really delightful, fun, long clues. You're not going to get as much like bad cluing for short little 3-letter clues, although we did get hep in this puzzle, which is always a bummer for me personally to see. We also got G clued as a thanks ? And I just don't know if I've ever heard anyone say the word G with enough enthusiasm to warrant 2 different punctuation marks. But
yeah,
but there's really fun stuff in there. As a law student, it was fun to write torts and think about cake. It was really fun. 21 Down is one of the highlights of the week for me. Montana player. I was like, Montana doesn't have any sports teams. Okay, if you go to the University of Montana, what are you, the Bison? Can we put Bison in there? What are we gonna, what do we put? And when I realized it's Cyrus, that was delightful, as you talked about.
I didn't get that until I had filled it in.
Oh, really?
Like the puzzle was over, and I looked back and I was like, "Oh yeah, what is Montana player?"
Mindbender we talked about in the rapid reactions. Twisty puzzle. Now Mindbender is honestly would have been a fun thing to type in. It's a bummer that it wasn't Rubik's Cube. That is a literal puzzle that twists.
And it fits.
And it's just I think that's an unlucky accident. I don't think that was intended to be that way. If it was, shame on you.
Yeah,
if you're gonna do
that's not what you want.
Because if you're going to do a misdirect on a clue, and there's a really good misdirect on Sunday, and I'll try to remember what it was, but when you're going to do a misdirect on things like that, you don't want the one that they originally think to be way better.
Yeah.
You want them at least to be somewhat even.
Yeah.
But
we also had 46 across was a football or a Simpsons reference, and then 37 down was also a Simpsons reference, which The Simpsons has been dubbed by Will Shortz one of the things you're allowed to reference just all the time.
Yep.
In your puzzles.
What do we get Apu all the time?
Apu all the time. You get Doe all the time. You get just random reference, Monorail was clued for The Simpsons for good reason, because that's one of the greatest television moments of all time.
We got the Rona Lisa a couple weeks back.
That's right.
Lisa Simpson.
Lisa, you get Mo, M-O-E. So yeah, we see it all the time and it's totally accepted. But 2 in 1 puzzle seems like you're pushing it. If we saw 2 Harry Potter clues in one puzzle, I would feel the same way. Or two Star Wars clues. Like, you're allowed to reference these things in the New York Times, but once per puzzle, max.
Yeah, and there's a lot of ways to get to groin.
Or woohoo.
Yeah.
So this is a fantastic puzzle. I can't be mad about this puzzle for too long because there's just so much great here. But I want to compare this puzzle to Saturday. I think Saturday does this a little bit better because we get less of the trivia and more of the like that Montana player Cyrus thing. That's what I want the entire puzzle to be on Friday. And if Saturday's that way, I'm happy. Sometimes they go a little too hard on Saturdays for me, but more of those moments like, oh, that's what they meant. In this puzzle, we get 2 down, Avonlea, Leah,
Avonlea.
Avonlea.
Mhm.
Did you know this?
I did. I played back in my long-haired drinking Acton days.
Yeah.
I was in Anne of Green Gables and I played Gilbert Blythe.
Did you enjoy filling this?
I did. It was a delight. Anytime Anne of Green Gables was like one of my favorite plays ever. Like I'm probably gonna text the cast after this and just be like, wasn't it fun to do that play? So I'm the ideal crossword solver for this clue. So I'm not a good sample. I can see how someone would be like, I have, Anne of Green, I don't know, Canada. I don't know. Like, where does this go? I don't know.
So yeah, that's one thing. We get that. We get what else did I want to? Oh, there's some music in this puzzle, right? So we get Santana, 30 down. We get Senorita, 44 across, clued as a music thing,
right?
And then the Isley Brothers, 21 across. So Isley and Avonlea is just a tough cross because they're both things that you either know or you don't. But then other than those, unless I'm missing something, SpaceX, I guess, is a proper nounage thing, although you got space in the name, so you can kind of figure at least that part out. That is it for proper nouns. We've got Tessa on the bottom right, but it's not clued as like a specific person you need to know. And so the rest of this puzzle is free to just be things that are in the zeitgeist, right? Like, and it's just full of so many great ways of cluing things that you figure it out and you're like, oh, that's what they meant. And luckily we have pescatarian down the middle. That for me was like the way to get into this puzzle. I think it's that, yeah, pretty easy of a clue to get there.
Pescatarian is a super great way to get into this puzzle as long as you know how to spell pescatarian.
Did you have an A as well?
I did have an A as well.
Man,
and
threw me off.
Did that added at least 20 minutes to the solve. And I'm gonna jump in here because I agree with you as someone who struggled with all of the proper nounage that you put in there. Eventually got Santana, later got Senorita. I think Isley was the last thing that I got. And I got it on Deposes, which was also weird. Anyway, beer bongs was the cross with pescatarian and with the EA of pescatarian. And I don't think that's a tailgate party accessory.
You're wrong?
Okay.
I mean, you're from Alabama, so you know how to tailgate.
I did my undergrad at Alabama. I've been to tailgates at Alabama, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and some other schools that don't do tailgating as well, like Ohio State and Carolina.
Go off.
Duke.
Go off.
The point is, I don't know. Beer bongs is I don't know. Maybe I just want a higher standard for my tailgate party.
You do.
But when I'm thinking tailgate party accessories, I'm thinking like cheese platters and like I was like, is it barbecues? Because it's like maybe it's something that's kind of an accessory to have like the whole grill like here on the side. But it's not like a frat party. A tailgate is not a frat party. And if you're having if your tailgate party feels like a frat party, you're doing it wrong. And
What about the frats who tailgate?
they're doing it wrong.
Okay.
Fraternity brothers don't know how to tailgate. They know how to party, but the problem is they only know one speed, and it's just party.
Yeah.
And a tailgate is not meant to be a party. And, here's some like get off my lawn stuff, but like if your tailgate gets you so drunk that you can't remember the game, you've failed. You didn't succeed. You didn't have a good time. You failed.
That's fair.
You want a tailgate that gets you like happy and casual and maybe sauced up a little bit and like ready to go to the game, but you still have to be able to go to the game and know what's going on in the game. And as someone who watches a lot of football and likes to watch football, I don't want to sit there and be like blurring my way through the third quarter just because I did an extra keg stand out on the lawn, which is not something anybody should be doing at a tailgate. If you want to get drunk like that, do it after the football game, not before the football game. That's no longer a party, a tailgate. That's just a frat party. I'm done.
So yeah, any tailgate party with a beer bong is not a tailgate party you want to be at. Nothing wrong with that.
I'm drawing a line in the sand.
Yeah, that's fair.
It slowed me down. It's funny because I had steel beams, and I was like, well, that can't be right. And I ended up deleting it, and then we were like, well, let's put steel beams back in there because I did this puzzle with my mom, and I it's like, let's put this back in. No, let's take it back out. No, well, can we try steel beams one more time? I don't think it's steel beams.
Yeah.
So this puzzle was fun. I really only had 2 qualms with this puzzle, and I want to talk to you about one of them. 29 across, Top Gear for hats is a bad clue, but when you only have one of those in a puzzle, it's
Why is that bad? Tell me. I'm assuming most of our audience think that's cute as hell. So tell us why it's bad.
What?
It's gear for your top. It's the top gear. Gear is plural, and they're tops. Tops are hats, and hats are tops, and they're my favorite pair.
A top, when talking about clothing,
Is a shirt.
is a shirt.
Yeah. But a top could also be a hat. I wrote a whole song about hats. I know this.
That's true.
And it's gear that goes on top of you.
Look.
And top gear is a phrase.
Yeah, Top Gear is a phrase, but that's like hard hats. If it's going to be gear, then it should be like hard. Look, we can disagree about this. I'm not Willie. I don't need to die on this hill the way that I died on the beer bongs hill. I didn't like that. The other one that I wanted to talk to you about is 7 down. Sorry, start. It ends up being mea for mea culpa.
Yeah. I also did.
And
this was the very last thing I filled in.
It
the
was
hardest thing in the puzzle for me. And when
really,
I filled it in, I was like, okay.
This was kind of my experience. I don't know if you had the same one that I did, but I saw that and I went, standard like, oh, that's a bad clue, and typed in ESS.
Oh,
because
God.
normally when we get something like this, sorry, start, question mark, starts with an S. And I was just kind of like, S, blah, blah, blah. And so that slowed me down in this upper right-hand corner. This is an example of a misdirect that you can do because
S sucks.
mea culpa, S sucks. And mea culpa, maybe not my favorite. I would get there a little bit differently, but it's a Saturday. It's allowed to be hard, and this is way better than S.
I luckily stuck to my laurels. Flashback to Tuesday or whatever. And I was like, I'm not going to write S in there. I was like, it can't be. On a Saturday, it won't be. They would never. They couldn't. And I like had it in the back of my mind, but I was like, I'm going to not do that. And luckily, I knew that Masago was smelt roe because I went and bought some for a sushi bake last week. So that helped. um, but I don't like solar time. I'm sure that's a thing.
Do you know? This is a TIL. Do you know what solar time is?
No.
Okay, so I looked this up because I also did not like solar time.
Yeah.
I like it more after knowing it. I don't know if you'll have the same reaction. So you and I are both in the East Coast right now. You are at your home, which is in the western part of North Carolina, and I am visiting my mom, which is in, like, what would you say, like easternish, central eastern North Carolina?
Yeah. 60% of the way through.
60% of the way through. How many miles is that? How many miles apart are we right now? 200? Let's say 200.
It's a good guess.
I like it. If we both guess it, it can't be wrong.
You're right.
We're 200 miles apart. It's the same time for us right now because we're in the same time zone.
224.
224 miles?
Yeah, probably like 210 as the crow flies.
That's pretty good, Alex. We know our North Carolina geography.
It's almost like we live here.
So let's say we're 210 miles apart. Even though it's the same time, I'm much further east than you, 200 miles plus, which means the sun that's been coming in and getting all over my face, the sun is higher in the sky for me than it is for you.
Yeah.
So it is on solar time, which is time which is measured based on how high the sun is in the sky. I'm like, I don't know, like 14 minutes ahead of you or whatever it would be. Because the sun is 14 minutes higher in the sky for me than it is for you.
So everyone has different solar time depending on where they are.
That's right. Solar time is like very location specific, and it's measured by astronomers with things like sundials.
I don't like it any better because I had some of these downs, or so for 30 Down, rock band named after blah, blah, blah. I had some of the letters and I put in Pantera, which is a rock band. Santana, technically a rock band, but if you're going to say which of the two is a rock band between Santana and Pantera, you can't pick Santana, which is fine. But the P made polar and I had polar tilt, which totally sounds like something an astronomer would calculate. It might not even be what you call that, but I was like, it's polar tilt. And that to me was way more tangible in my brain.
Yep.
And I was like, solar tilt doesn't make sense. Dang it.
Yep.
Maybe it was still beams.
They astronomers call it axial tilt, but yeah, I thought it was polar tilt for a while. I thought it might be when I put in solar time, I was like, solar time, that sounds like it could be a thing. And my stepdad was just like walking around in the room behind us and he was like, yeah, as opposed to the rested time. And it was just like somehow time is different on the sun, which doesn't make any sense and isn't true. And it's just a different thing.
It's a different thing. You can kind of tell because there's 6 clues that go across the middle here: coal miner, beer bongs, art scenes, Canadians, candy bars. And those 5 are all like really solid things that everyone knows about. And so you can kind of expect maybe one of them's going to be a little more niche to kind of make this incredible grid work. So this was my puzzle of the week. There was just so much fun in here. One to watch, don't rush me, and just a lot of great ways of cluing things, right? One picking out something for a cart. That's a coal miner. Things from Mars available for purchase. Candy bars. Just like that's the thing I like. It's like, oh, that's what they meant. Stars above. I get it. Okay. And great segue into Sunday is that we had Camila Cabello, 2 puzzles in a row. Back to back. Different songs. Would they run it back to back if they were both Havana? I don't know. But the Shawn Mendes and Camila Cabello celebrity couple that was, I love it because my sister called them Shamila Mendes, and that's hilarious.
That's a great name mashup.
I
10
was
out of 10.
I was broken when
When they were broken. Yeah.
because I couldn't say Shamila Mendes anymore.
Apparently, Taylor Swift just broke up with her boyfriend. If you are listening to this podcast for your celebrity gossip news, why?
Welcome to Tua Goss, our podcast about goss. So we had 2 Camillas in a row. And then today, on Saturday, we had Santana. And then today on Sunday, we had Santana again.
Yep.
When repeated. So I had just looked up Santana songs for the podcast yesterday, and I was listening to the whole, like, which one would be best to kind of highlight what I'm talking about. And so it was just right there, like in a Santana frame of mind. And that's a great clue. Although the top of this puzzle, we talked about you want your Sundays to pop last week with pet spas and orgasm, and Fret Saw ain't it. That is not getting anybody going.
You mean Fret Saw and Romaine are not really like starting you strong?
It's like the 4th best salad ingredient and a Fret Saw.
Which to me buries the lead a little bit, because this was a really, really solid Sunday puzzle.
I
really, really enjoyed it. We get 7 themers, and they're all the first half of saying idioms, axioms, phrases, whatever you want to call it. And they're all clued for the full phrase, and then the last theme clue is "you know the rest," which is great because all of these are things that you only have to say half of in common parlance. Like, I have said each of these things. Probably the one I've said the least is "all that glitters," but I've said it, and you don't need everything. You don't need the rest of the phrase. I really like that. Some of the fill, as is always true on a Sunday, there are moments of, oh, that's clunky just because of how big the board is, but really not terrible. And I had a great time filling this out last night.
Yeah, I think this was one where once you got what the idea was from one of them, you could totally just run in and nab all the other ones. Like, you're right, it's the first half of a phrase, and it's the half that people say. Maybe more often than the full thing. Oh, bird in the hand. Oh, probably great minds is one that people say as full, maybe more often, but
that's just because it's short. I've said, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we say it all the time. Like they all fit.
We should have just said it when we both guessed 200. That would have been a
great minds.
Great minds. Bummer.
One that I think, because I learned that there was a second half to speak of the devil like 5 years ago or something. I was an adult man when I realized that there was a second half of this, because you say it when someone walks in and you're like, yeah, speak of the devil. You're like so happy to see that person, and you're basically saying, speak of the devil and he shall appear. And like, you are the devil. When they walk in, kind of aggressive. So, it's kind of like jack of all trades. People say that as like a super positive thing, but then the second half is master of none. And
right.
Like, it's actually not a good thing to be necessarily. So that one I'm glad is in here to get one that maybe some people don't know the rest.
Sure.
Of that one, but there is rest, and people never say it
because it's mean.
It is mean, and so you have to kind of say it under your breath. I'll speak as a devil. The devil. And the title of the crossword is "If the Clue Fits," which is so perfect. One more example of this, and you don't have to say the rest. Hey, if the shoe fits.
Yep.
Huh? And then I also like cheeky 115 across, where there's smoke.
So this is the misdirect that I was thinking about for Sunday, where you had to have put fire. You put fire, didn't you?
I put fire.
Yeah, I
but
put
it doesn't
fire as
make
well.
sense
Where there's
because
smoke, I guess fire is where there's
fire
smoke.
is not a place.
Right,
Fire is
right.
not where there's smoke. But we
But
both wanted it.
and F works and E works. I checked it with and E becomes Etsy, and I was like, okay, so let's go. And then you're in trouble. And just and that one is one where when you realize, oh no, it's flu, that's a better answer, as you said, than fire. And you do the like, man, you had me with the first half. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. So I like that. It was a little cheeky. But yeah, the rest of this puzzle was, I think, a big joy. I've heard the phrase energies are, but it was a little bit out of reach for me in my brain. So that edge was like the last thing I ended up doing, trying to get adsy and Stax records and fed to as gave is okay, and then I pass is unfortunate with no bid because it could also be I fold
Or
or
check, or I call,
or I'm out.
I'm out. Yeah.
So that's tough. But the rest of it was just a joy, and it definitely helped that I just could get all the themers almost immediately. But yeah, I really like 47 down, where a grilled cheese can be found at McDonald's, and I shudder to think of how many grilled cheeses will be ordered at McDonald's today and tomorrow. But
I also loved. I wanna give a quick shout out to 10 down. What an at might signify, a road game.
yeah,
That was a fun way of cluing it, a fun way of getting in there. And as soon as you're seeing it, you're like, oh gosh, is this gonna be some kind of like Twitter handle or Instagram name or something ID or
email.
yeah, like what are we doing? And it's a road game. It's a road game.
We've seen at so many times, and it's always Twitter handle or something like that. So there's a nice little road game. Nice. Although I'm sure there's a lot of non-sports fans who were beating themselves in the face for so long. What on earth is this talking about? I liked the thematic idea of Tom crossing with Cobb, but Cobb is just so much further down the hole of things that I was upset about it. And that was actually the last thing I filled in was that one letter because I was kind of mad at it. I was like, I'm just gonna leave that one.
I had Tom, I knew Tom, and so if you know Tom, then the rest of it is
Everyone
not
knows
that
Tom.
hard. Well, and so the rest of it isn't really that hard because you get, if you can't stand the heat, and you get Tom, and then you have blank OBS for moves up and down, or goes up and down. And so I got Bob.
Tom's everyone's friend.
Tom's your uncle.
The bottom left corner, we have Henry next to Alan. Which is tough when you have two names back to back. One of them is clued in a way that you can kind of figure it out sideways. And then we get Ellen Pompeo, which I was just saying, we've been watching a lot of Grey's Anatomy. There's a much more famous Ellen who has fallen out of favor recently. And so I wonder if we're going to get more Ellen Pompeo and less Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
Could be.
Which is interesting.
I wouldn't hate it. I love Ellen Pompeo. I watched Grey's Anatomy back in the day, and I think she's a delight.
It's still running. They've got 19 seasons of that thing.
That's insane.
Insane.
Have you played a lot of Catan?
I played maybe 5 rounds in my life, but one of them was pretty recently.
105 down, resource in the game Catan becomes wheat.
Yeah.
And you and I are big board game fans, board game guys, really.
Yeah.
Say that. But
nerds, 25 across.
But we haven't really played a lot of Catan between us.
We have it. I dated a girl in undergrad and went to her family's house for the first time. Met her parents in her like hometown. And it was a big deal. And the whole family loved Catan. They played all the time. And so they're like, come play. We'll teach you how to play.
Oh, no.
And I don't know if it was because they were going easy on me because it was my first time or because they were fighting each other, cutthroat style or whatever, but I won. And they were pissed. And we played one game and that was it. And then I was like, I got like 100% win rate of Catan.
I should never play again. Yeah.
Never lost. So I went like, I don't know, 7 years without playing. But I was suckered back into it. So now I've lost a bunch of games. Unfortunately.
I also want to shout 91 down laser tag, a little light combat. Just a fun way of cluing it. And not crazy hard, but enough that you're like, oh, I don't really know what that is at first. And then you get a couple and you're like, it's laser tag. Which, yeah.
I think 84 down civet crossing with clumps along with bell tent was really tough because it can either be clumps or stomps, and it could be a belt tent. As far as I know,
it could,
and it could be civet spelled with an S,
right?
So that's just an unfortunate little chunk there that I forgot a lot of people.
Yeah, thank goodness for my girlfriend because she had civet, and I would still be doing the puzzle right now if it wasn't for that.
Is it bell or belt?
I would still be doing the puzzle in this moment. So, yeah, I'm starting to become more and more of a believer in, like, you know, especially Sundays. But even on a Friday or Saturday, if you're feeling some struggles, ask a friend. Get somebody to help you out. I remember when I first started doing puzzles, I would text you and I would just say, "Hey, help." And I wouldn't tell you what I was struggling with. And you'd be like, "Yeah, you're probably you probably put stomps, didn't you?" And I'm like, and then I would go through and be like, "What is it, clumps?" And then I would realize and that was super helpful. We don't do that anymore because we like to preserve the integrity of our rapid reactions for you people
or all of you.
But it's still nice, especially on the weekends, to be able to do it with a friend, loved one, family, whatever it is.
So yeah, I super enjoyed this puzzle, and this whole week, I think, honestly, all told, can't be upset. We had some super quality things, no clunkers.
No clunkers. I will say I think Sunday's my puzzle of the week. I just really love the theme, and I'm always impressed with a Sunday that can have a fun theme and some fun long clues and not have real pockets of just absolute drudgery. So really happy with this puzzle. Shout out to John Eubank. And
or
for my worst,
perhaps
Eubank.
Yeah, that's typically how you pronounce that, but maybe he's
EW is U.
Yeah, Eubank.
I have to draw another line in the sand. That would have been no, Eubank. Okay, John. I would have thought. Anyway, we'll talk about that off the camera. But for worst cross of the week, I was thinking about Rio and Eider. I think that Nineveh and Listeria is a good candidate. I would also throw in from this puzzle 20 down and 26 across. It wasn't really worst cross of the week as much as it was just a bad beat from me. Blockhead is twit. It could also be twat. And British draft horse is shire. It could have been share. I don't know.
I was thinking they wouldn't put twat in the puzzle because it means a bad thing.
Yeah. Oh, have they not put that in the puzzle before?
Well, now I'm not sure and I gotta look it up.
You're probably right.
Yeah, never in
the puzzle.
Yeah, now I gotta look up bullocks. That's another thing that we say a lot, but literally means testicles in British. So yeah, that's never been in there either.
All right. Well, there you go. That's just a bad beat on me then. I'm going to stick with Eider and Rio for worst cross of the week.
It's not bad. It's not bad. It's the clue for Rio. If they include Rio better, you wouldn't hate it. There's no way to save Nineveh and Listeria.
But they did.
Like, I honestly can't believe that you would prefer Rio and Eider to Listeria and Nineveh.
I'm just giving people options. I'm just giving people options here.
And Lamina is right there.
Lamina is pretty bad as well.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh. So yeah, I mean that's my pick. And Saturday was my puzzle of the week. Just to very impressive and joy to behold.
You're a joy to behold.
Oh.
That's it for this week. Until next time, you can find us on Instagram at 2acrosspod for instant reactions to the crossword every single day.
This episode was produced by David Cohn and edited by Judd Bushler. Mastering from Alan Iverson. Original music by Clark Singleton. This is 2 Across.
And that's another one down.